All right, let's go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Being Human. It's always so funny to start these things off, dude. And that's just the way of things. Yeah, really. Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to film a podcast. I'm feeling a little bit tired. A little bit kind of coming down from just a big day, big weekend, big couple of days. And excited to kind of get into what we're going to get into today. And we actually have no idea what we're going to get into today. We're going to do something's kind of funny and fun and special. And I ended up coming up with a bunch of podcast ideas and I put them all in a hat. And Donna over here is going to be the one to draw something from the hat. And whatever that topic is, whatever it is, we get to kind of explore that and open up a conversation about it, or who knows where it's going to go, really. Which I think is really exciting and beautiful.
Love surprises.
Yeah, which would have been a good one to go in, man. Embracing the unknown. I didn't even write that in there. Which will just be for another day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the conversation in and of itself will, in some way, lead to that.
Yeah, like embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it just because it's like right for both of us in some ways, or?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's do it, man.
Cool.
I haven't picked from a hat. I don't even remember the last time.
Yeah, when was the last time you picked from a hat?
Who knows, man?
Man, it would have been when I was a kid, dude. Like, I'm getting a memory of my dad. There's like 6 things in here, you know, just shaking them up.
What do we got?
You gotta close your eyes, though.
I can't see.
Yeah, I can't.
Hold it
see.
up here.
I'm blind, man. I'm blind, bro. I'm so curious.
I know I am too.
Yeah, this is gonna be good because there's a couple in there that. Hey, you just want to peek? I want to know.
Oh, you're gonna find out. Today on Being Human, we are going to talk about the teachings of the medicine wheel.
Far out.
I'm not lying.
Just tell them the truth.
There it is. The teachings of the medicine wheel. And there's many of them. Many medicine wheels. And ultimately, I think they very much all lead to the same thing. Kind of a way. Bit of a path along the way of this beautiful human experience we call life.
How does that feel when you picked it?
It felt good. I was like, it's something that I'm somewhat familiar with.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I felt a little bit of confidence.
Nice. Yeah.
And yet I don't really know too much about them at all. I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah. What we know.
What we know about them, and we'll get to share that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're like, I don't know too much about the medicine wheel exactly. You know, like I haven't studied it in any particular way, and so I feel like you'll get to lead this in a really good way. And yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Cool that one came to be. Yeah.
I'm surprised you that was one that you chose
Yeah.
to write it and put in the hat.
Well, it's like when I sat there to come up with ideas, it was like I just asked the question of like what wants to come through. You know, like what wants to come through, and like when do I ever think of the like when did that ever come to be? But it's just like, yeah, here it is. And yeah.
What are those things called that like you see them get built with seeds and
Ofrenda. An ofrenda?
yeah, but there's another like another word, another term for them that I've heard. It starts with an M.
Mandala?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like just a beautiful mandala. A medicine wheel. A mandala is a medicine wheel, or can be. Okay, the teachings of the medicine wheel. Well, let's see where this goes.
So like what from what you know of like the medicine wheel, what is the medicine wheel?
the medicine wheel is a sort of guideline that teaches us about the phases of life. And as far as I can tell, there's 4 of those. And
Okay.
they are all encompassed in this circle, which leads me to believe that everything is all interconnected within
One.
this sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, all one, exactly. And so that's where it actually begins, is the circle that holds
Yeah.
life. And then I would think that the next one is the first stage of life, I should say, would be that of the child, which in the ways of Native American tradition is also the place of the South.
Okay.
Then the next stage of life would be youth, which is the West.
Yeah.
Then north, which is the adult. And then east, which is elder.
Okay.
And they're, like, in some way, those stages of life needed to be earned. We almost needed to be deemed competent to like fulfill the responsibilities that that particular stage of life required from us, and then also to receive the gifts of what those stages of life can give us.
In the sense of, like, so it's like, because everybody grows up, like if we take it outside of the medicine wheel, everybody grows up and they're like, okay, you come into the world, you're a kid, you move from like the child to the adolescence, you move from the adolescence into the adult, and you move from the adult to just getting old. It's like, that's just like the process of life. And it sounded like what you touched on was like, just because that happens doesn't mean that you actually go through the 4 stages. Is that true? So it's like, is that what that means to like earn those pieces? Is like, just because you're getting older and I'm 31 years old, it doesn't mean that I'm an actual adult, according to the medicine wheel. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm an actual adult if I haven't earned what that actually means. Is that kind of like what you meant there?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it was interesting that you used the word adolescence instead of youth, because it's child, youth, adult, elder. And the truth of the matter is, we are living very much in a world of adolescence because of the loss of the way of traditional ceremonial culture and ritualistic living and initiations, rites of passage. And I know I can attest to that for myself. It's very much true. Like, I'm 40 years old this summer, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe a couple years, where I really actually felt like I was a man. You know, like I had gone through various forms of initiations and rites of passage that, with guidance from elders, and kind of was committed to that because I very much knew that I was caught in adolescence, you know, let's say up until the age of 37, you know, from age 13 or 12 to 37 years old, I'm just basically stumbling around, walking around blind, and just not aware of what it even means to be a man and what the responsibilities that come with that and how to walk in that way. So the medicine wheels are very powerful things. There's like a myriad, millions of teachings that come with the medicine wheel, and I yeah.
What happened for you there? Like, what happened?
I just didn't really know what else to say.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And like where to go in that way? Like where to
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think like one thing, like when I think about the medicine wheel, I guess like the teachings of the medicine wheel, because I know that there's a lot of teachings of the medicine wheel, and kind of like what came through, like the intention of like that was like just like what is it? What does it mean to be a child? You know, what does it mean to be the youth? What does it mean? Like, what is adolescence? You said adolescence, but like, what does that mean? What does adolescence mean? And I like,
Well, let's go there.
Okay.
So, because we can both talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, what does it mean to be a child? What does the child represent for you? What does that stage of life, a child, from being born, its inception to 8 years old?
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. I think like it's really nice because it's like I have a son, you know, so it's like I've gotten to see that, like I've gotten to see what that actually is. And that's obviously like innocence, purity, wonder, curiosity, joy, laughter, just like a really innate, just like purity, where it's like he's coming into the world like a clean slate, and there's just so much like everything's brand new, everything's like it's rich, it's beautiful, it's like it's exciting in its own way. And so I feel like that very much represents like a child in that way. Like that would be the qualities that I would see for that. Now the qualities that I see in myself, or like it's almost like I've gone through life and it was like that, like life in some ways and the experiences that happened and the things that I experienced almost kind of like took that child away. It's like that child got buried inside of me. And so in this moment, there's a thought that comes up of like, should we do something different for a podcast? I don't know why that comes up. Yeah. There's just a thought that keeps trickling in. It's like, should we just pick another one and just go with it?
We don't need to. We can, but this is
Yeah.
good.
This is good?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why that thought's there, man. That thought's like
What other thoughts are there?
there was just that thought, that thought just kept coming back, man. It was
Oh.
just, that thought just kept coming back of like, should we do another, like, should we pick something different, you know, to just speak on? And maybe like come to this one maybe a little bit more prepared, or like with more of like a preparation for it in some ways, of like maybe actually draw like a medicine wheel, or like maybe, because like it was something that was a little bit unfamiliar to me, you know, like I don't know the medicine wheel. I don't really know it, you know.
Well, so let's figure it out.
Okay.
Or like, let's understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. I like what you said. I very much agree that the place of the child very much is that. It's pure. We're born, we come into this earth, birthed through our mothers from the unknown, from love, from consciousness, from awareness. And we're as pure pure can be. And that's a really beautiful thing. And some other things that you said were curiosity, innocence, playfulness, joy, all of those things. And I guess I'll just touch on it now. One of the things that I really appreciate about the medicine wheel is that, because it encompasses the whole, is that when we actually become initiated adults, when we become men and women, we actually embody every part of the medicine wheel. And I believe for me, that means, in one word, aliveness. Like we're truly alive. We see ourselves as pure. We feel ourselves as innocence. We feel our curiosity, the excitement, the joy, the playfulness, the unconditional love, right? More aspects of the child. And I think in the world that we live in today, it's seemingly difficult to nurture those aspects as we're growing up, very much because of, again, the lack of traditional ceremonial culture and ritualistic living has, kind of been well, banned at one point, and it's slowly coming back into our lives. Like it's slowly becoming more and more available. So those qualities of the child aren't nurtured because our parents very much were caught in the adolescent stage of life. And that adolescent stage of life, the difference between an adolescent and a youth is that initiation piece. Again, those aspects of the youth that are confidence, bravery, those weren't nurtured. And so at that stage of life is very much when the ego, our ego, is being developed. And actually, that might not even be true. I think in the place of like from 0 to 8, because I think that 8 is somewhere around the first initiation. That is when, if nurtured properly, that's, and like we were raised by yogis, or right in a culture rich in understanding and love, devotion, prayer, commitment, all those things, where the village would have raised that child, and the ego would have developed in by somewhere around the age of 8, and at that point, it was like that. It was deemed that that was enough. Like the ego was developed enough to the point where it could protect us, because in some way I believe that is what the ego is for, to keep us safe. And then we would go through an initiation process. I don't know exactly what that would look like for an 8-year-old, a boy or girl. I have no idea. It very much could look like going out and doing a 24-hour fast with someone, an elder, or an adult, maybe something like that.
Yeah, there's different, like there's a couple others that I thought of as well. There's like a cutting of the cord, or cutting of the like a tie. So it's like I remember you wrapped rope around your feet, because like for a lot of life, it's like that 0 to 8 is also when they spend a lot of time with you. Like you're predominantly with your child, and they're getting to that point of maturity where it's then oh no, actually see, I butchered that. Wow, I'm in massive judgment right now. This is far out, dude. I'm experiencing some far outness, man, because that ceremony actually comes when they're moving from youth to, I think it's the next one when they're about 14 or 16 years old. When they're starting to move into the actual world. It's when you wrap your feet together with your child, and you come and you cut the cord together. You cut the rope and you let them go free, and you let them walk away from you. And what it signifies is you are now walking this world on your own. Like you're beginning to take those steps away from my humble abode, away from me protecting you, and beginning to move on your own. Now, for some reason, I thought that could go in between, like that could be at that stage of child to youth, because I feel like in some ways that's almost how I saw that, like with Lincoln, of like, okay, buddy, like for just like experiencing Lincoln in my own world, he was really all about like in just my own space for the last 7.5 years, and he's 7.5, and it's like just now I'm beginning to see him gather more independence. And the reason why that came in is because like he just walked to the corner store by himself like 2 months ago, and that was the biggest thing. Like that was the biggest thing yet. It's not a kilometer away, but it's probably somewhere close between 750 meters and a kilometer away. And so like decent, and he was able to do that on his own, and it's just like, it's pretty far out for the little guy. Like we don't get to like in my day and age, that happened all the time. Like it was just like we had that freedom to go and explore. I was walking to school when I was in grade 1 by myself because we lived close enough, but we still lived a decent way where it was a decent walk. Whereas like he now gets to experience that. So I see this almost this reclamation of independence for him and in him, of he's beginning to kind of come into his own in that way. But I think what you were speaking to is it's the shattering of the ego. It's like really not necessarily shattering it, but saying, hey, that's enough. No need to grow anymore, no need to take over, no need to consume, no need to get so caught up in me. Let's put that in its place and let's to begin to envelop what was here before, the spirit. Let's begin to integrate that aspect into being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much that. When you were speaking, I can't remember what culture it is exactly, but there's a culture, I believe somewhere in Asia or Southeast Asia, where the child that's born actually doesn't touch the ground until the age of 2. And that same thing that you were describing, it's like, okay, here you go. Like now, go, play, go learn things. Yeah, the ego, reaching a point where the ego has matured, and then like, I don't even know, like I want to say like putting a stop to that, but it's like, that's not necessarily what's happening. It's just like, we begin to like feed that ego almost, with I don't know, more spiritual teachings, like a more spiritual way of life.
Yeah, it's like you begin to feed the spirit. So instead of feeding the ego for those 8 years and really locking that person into the personhood of, oh, this is your Lincoln, you're this, 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 and like the material world and all the stuff that comes with it. Because like I feel like if that doesn't get put to an end, and it's not necessarily about, I guess, like putting to an end, but it's just about, okay, can we feed this other aspect of ourselves? Because if we don't feed that aspect, then I believe that the ego almost takes hold of that, and then you just become consumed in the world, where everything is about just the worldly pleasures that are here. Whereas it almost seems like it's like we're like the medicine wheel in some ways. Like this was kind of like my thought on that, was like it's a way of bringing those together in harmony. Instead of letting one just go off and rampant, which I think leads the person to becoming an adolescence, which is just they're of the world. They're just so of the world, and they're so caught up in the busyness and the stuff, and I'm gonna collect these things, I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna do all the things that everybody's, just all the things, and I'm just gonna be in the world tasting and eating and getting stung by things. And
it's all the mice from Jumping Mouse.
Yeah, it's all the mice from Jump. Just busy doing mice things. We're just busy doing human things. We're working, we're driving, we're doing the do's all the time. And instead of that process like taking over, it's almost like we're beginning to almost like enter that initiatory phase of like beginning to feed the spirit, beginning to come back into, okay, and there's this other aspect of life. It almost makes me think of like come back into Naite's teachings, where it's like instead of growing up in the world and us talking about spirits or us kind of having that language, it's almost like we're introducing that language now and that spirit kind of there into the child at that age. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
No, I think we're nurturing the relationship of in the stage of the youth, which I think typically would happen around the age of 8. We begin to really nurture our relationship, or write our relationship with both ego and spirit. Like ego lands in right place, we put it in right place, and at that age we slowly begin to learn and understand that we are spirit beings here living the human experience. And if that doesn't happen, you're exactly right. It's the story of it's the story of the world we live in today. It's the story that I've lived very much, where we just get caught in all the worldly things. Envy, greed, lust, desires, attachments to to all of it, where life actually, we without proper guidance, without the spirit being nourished and without receiving teachings about the truth of who we are, the world is such a beautiful classroom. It's such a beautiful playground for us to like remember all of these things. But it can cause a lot of devastation and disharmony, and a lot of pain and suffering if the spirit isn't fed or tended to in a good way. So yeah, the youth. What are there any more qualities or aspects of the youth that you can think of? I only named 2.
Courage and bravery?
No, courage is another one. I said confidence.
Okay.
Confidence,
Okay.
courage,
Yeah.
bravery. I'm trying to reflect back on my own life, like adventurous.
Yeah. Almost like, I want to say there's almost like a pushing of a limit. I don't know if there's like, I don't know if that comes back to confidence, but there's almost like an untouchableness that comes with it.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, like whether it's confidence, of just like I can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really feel like that's how I felt when I was a
Yeah.
youth, when I was young. It's like I could do anything.
Yeah.
It's like whatever's out there, done. Like I'm gonna be an astronaut, or I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. It's like very much it felt like that.
And so like, because this is what an interesting part about the medicine wheel is, the child is the child. The adult is the adult. The elder is the elder. And none of those can be anything else. They are. So there's a certain level of understanding in each, or complete innocence and purity, where understanding, is also part of that. We're just not consciously aware of it. But the youth can also be the adolescence, right? It's the only place out of the 4 sections or stages of life that there's separation. In every single other one, it's oneness, it's wholeness. That's a really interesting piece.
What do you mean by separation? What do you mean by like how the youth can be the only one that experiences kind of like that separation?
I don't think the youth does experience separation. I think the youth learns about separation, and that it is that spirit is not that, right? Spirit, living in and as spirit, is non-dual, right? It's whereas living as in the adolescence, it's very much dualistic, like you're just caught in dualism. It's doesn't understand life's paradoxical nature of light, dark, beauty, uglinesses, death, aliveness, or death.
Birth.
Yeah, death, birth.
Up, down.
Yeah, up, down, all of those things, and confusion starts to happen, because it's a really difficult thing to understand. Like, try to wrap your head around it. Like, I would say the truth for me is that I had no idea what that even meant until I was 34 years old or 35 years old. It wasn't even a construct. It was nothing. I was just so focused on me. Yeah.
Is that almost a quality of the youth as well? Like a meanness? Or would that be the quality of an adolescence?
That's the quality of an adolescence.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the youth is learning that it is not about me. However, I need to take care of me to continue to learn and deepen my connection with spirit. Like that's the paradox of it all, is it has nothing to do about me, and at the same time it has everything to do about me. And try to understand that without any guidance, without any support, right? And that's the beautiful thing about cultures rich in ceremony and ritual, right? Where this is everyday life, right? Like living
ceremoniously is life. Living in the wheel is life. Like there's not even a separation between, oh, this is the wheel and life. It just is, and it just happens. Like the ceremonies and the initiatory periods of time, they just naturally occur. So it's almost like no matter what, every 8-year-old is going through this process, and it's just something that happens. It's not even a thought of like, oh, hey, we got to do this because of this. It's just that's embedded so deeply in their culture that it just naturally leads a human being into that realization and awareness. So there's not even like any drifting from that. There's like no meandering. Like the way that I guess I view it is almost like without the medicine wheel and without the teachings and the initiatories and like the learnings that come with it and following the path, it's almost like we become an isolated seaweed floating in the sea, disconnected from everything. You know, it's like the seaweed's just floating there by itself, but it's not meant to float there by itself. It's like wandering throughout life, trying to figure out on its own. And trying to figure out, well, who am I? What is this? It's just all on its own, just trying to figure, not realizing that it's connected to the whole, not realizing that it's the way that it's supposed to be is with all of the other seaweed or like all of the other things and all of life in that way. It's just kind of on its own and timid. And it sounded like it was kind of like embedded into the culture where it's like there was just no, and I believe that's how they used to operate as well. There was just no, like that was just the way of life. The medicine wheel was just the way of life. The initiatory periods were just of the way of life, where somebody is moving from the child to the youth to the adult and then to becoming and being an elder.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit about Martin Prechtel and his teachings, his stories really, are just full of teachings, and how like there was something you said about in a ceremonial way of living or a culture rich in ceremony. It's like this is how everybody just was, like this was the way of life. And in some of his stories, that's actually not true. Like I guess for those of you who don't know anything about Martin Prechtel, he's a incredibly wise man who is a indigenous man of the Americas and of North America, and spent some time down in South America or Central America, Guatemala. He left North America following his heart down to culture in the Udijo culture in Santiago, Alatlan, where they very much still or did their best to live ceremonially before the Civil War came, I think in the 70s or something like that. But it was something he had longed for. Anyway, went on a bit of a tangent there. He's an incredible man. His work is absolutely amazing. Do yourself a favor and pick up his books or go down to his school in New Mexico.
Nice.
Anyway, I'm recalling from his stories that not everybody did participate in this way of life. And that was very much at the time where, there was already like the Spaniards and religion had been introduced to these very remote villages. And so some people had already been, chose that instead of their indigenous way of life. And so I think it was up to, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's still up to us today to, there's many different paths. And I do very much believe that whatever path it is eventually going to lead us all back to the one, right? To wholeness. There's whatever flavor you want, man. Pick it and run with it, and don't waver from it. Instead, supplement it with other teachings. But I think it's up to us to very much model that, to live that for the people who aren't able to quite see or understand that. It's like the whole lighthouse thing that you've spoken about lots, just being a beacon of light for people, right? It's really important. It's the only way to really lead. I think that's we're jumping a little bit ahead, but that's really the gift of the adult.
Nice. Okay.
Right, is to be a giver of life. Like, a lot of people will call women life givers, and they very much are. But men are also life givers, and that can look it manifests, I guess I should say, in the physical world in many different ways. And I believe what it is to be a giver of life is when we really truly come to learn the beauty of living from our heart space. And then, because we are living from our heart space, we're living in a state of surrender where creation just flows through us. And I mean, look at creation, look at the natural world. It's nothing short of miraculous. It's nothing short of beautiful. It's indescribably those things. And the truth of things is that there's very few initiated adults living on this earth today, walking on this earth today. And I think that's a big reason why we see a lot of the things that are happening today, because at the age of I'm a little bit confused isn't the right word, but like I think I agree with you. You said before that there's something around the age of 14.
Yeah.
Right, but like it's like, well, what's from 8 to 14 if the adult initiation or rite of passage doesn't really happen until 18, 19? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I do recall that there's some sort of ceremony, like when you're 14 years old. It's like you're coming into life. You're coming into like puberty.
It's like coming of age.
Yeah, it's almost like coming of age. Yeah, you're coming into your womanhood. Like I think a lot of that was around the time in which a woman would get her period for the first time. And so it's a celebration, almost like a ritual of that aspect of things. I don't necessarily that might have not been like the transition between becoming a youth and an adult, but it may have just been almost like a ceremony that comes to just embrace that aspect of things, of like, well, for a man, of like when the testicles drop and when he's growing, he's having this huge growth spurt where it grows 2 feet in the matter of like, I don't know if it's 2 feet, maybe it's 2 feet, but like whatever length it is, it's like however he grows. And when that happens, it's like puberty kicks in and you begin to, because there's a whole change in your psyche, there's a whole change in your being, there's a whole change in your chemistry at that age. And I don't think that is necessarily going from the youth to the adult. I think that may just be almost like a ceremony within the youth that gets to be celebrated and kind of not expected, but nurtured and cherished in that way. And I think around that 18 period, I think is when, I think because in order to go from youth to adulthood, that's the fire tending ceremony, and then what we've experienced, the fire tending ceremony, and then your first vision fast is when you really begin to step into that space. I think at like age 21, I think, wasn't it? That's when you
18, 19.
is when you experience your first vision fast.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think maybe like fire tending ceremony in the way of things out here with Helgaminum people, the Cowichan people. That was a ceremony that you and I both did. That would typically, I think, be done around that coming of age, which was that 14
Okay.
time, roughly, right?
Yeah.
Whenever it happened. And then around age 18, 19 was the rite of passage from youth into adulthood. And that was a vision fast, at least out here, this way.
And there's been like that. I just want to touch on the part that there's like many different cultures have many different ceremonies. Because I can recall reading a book, like it's coming back to me like when I was reading a book, I can recall like at that point in time when it was like they separated it really beautiful. It was like for the most of the life, it was like and this was for a young boy to become a man, and the women were different, but for a young boy, I think this was a tribe maybe somewhere in, I think like Africa or like that space. I don't know what like if that's is Africa the continent? Okay, yeah, Africa, I would say. I believe it was somewhere in that region. The tribe would take the boy, so the boy would actually grow up and spend most of his time with the women. He'd spend most of the time with the mom. And then when there was that transition where he was becoming a man, what would end up happening is they would take the boy, and the mothers would know that this is coming, and the grandmothers would know that this was coming. And so they were in on it too, but the young boys didn't. And in the middle of the night, the men would come into the hut and steal the boy. And the women would act all shocked and like, no, like not our boy, like, oh my God, like no, like just like, no, like what are you guys doing? And it would like instill that fear in the boy. And then the men would take the boy and take him through a series of rites or a series of tests in some ways. And this was like a little bit far out what they would do, but they ended up going through all these trials, and they ended up leaving this boy on an anthill, and the ants like were eating the skin. And he pretty much like, I can't remember the exact like passages or tests, but they left this boy there and he was rendering unconscious, like coming in and out of consciousness, and this far out. And it was the point at which he almost died. And then they took the boy off the anthill, and then the men, the elders, took him to the water and began to bathe him and began to clear off his skin and began to nurse him back to life. And when he came back to life, all of the men and all of the older men, the elders, looked at him and said, "You are now a man." And that was that was the boy's initiation into, this is who I am. I think I am the adult now. I am a man in the world. No longer with the mother, no longer connected to that aspect of things, but now you're off with the men, and you sleep with the men, and you orientate with the men. And the elders could go back and forth between both. But it's like so like every culture I think had the different passages of rites in some ways of like, I think there was some mixing between them, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've heard of a few other different ones where you like run on a beach and the way you pass that initiation or prove that you're worthy of moving into that next stage of life is that when you run on the beach, you actually don't kick up any sand. So you're basically floating. Or you go and the buried alive one, you dig a hole, you get buried up to your neck, and you sit there and fast for 24 hours or 2 days, whatever it is. Another one is, it's with the anthill again, you go and with a staff, you stick a staff into the anthill, and the ants will only climb up the staff if you've been deemed worthy. Wow. And if they did climb up the staff, if you were deemed worthy, the whole entire ant colony would climb up the staff, completely envelop your entire body. And when the ants were done doing what the ants needed to do to cleanse you and purify you into that next stage of life, they would go back down your staff into the ant home. Yeah, there was another one. I wish I knew the traditions that these came from. Another one that I've heard of is there's a circle of like let's say a 16-foot diameter circle, and there's rattlesnakes in the circle, like 10 or 12 rattlesnakes, and you have to walk from one side of the circle to the other, and you're obviously going to get bit, but the whole thing was to, like, the amount of pain that you would experience was based on the depth of your prayer as you walked through, and the trust that you had in the medicine people who were on the other side to get that venom out of you before you died. And it's just like, oof. I mean, Sundance. I was just at Sundance. It's another one, right? It's and they're also celebratory as well. You know, like these. There were big celebrations. Like whoever was going through these initiations, man or woman, like it was like you were celebrated for the effort, for all the work that you have put in to keep the village alive, to keep the way of life, this way of life alive. Really becoming an adult is exactly that, is learning how to learning to that we need to feed the life that feeds us. And it's one of Martin Prechtel's a line from one of his books that I read recently is God lives off of the beauty that we create. And that really can only come from the heart. That beauty, whatever it is, whether it's a podcast, whether you're a painter, a musician, whether you work construction, it doesn't matter. It's just tuning in and listening to what it is that you need. There was something that I wanted to touch on in that, just that adolescence piece.
It was just to quickly go just touch it. It just took me a moment to get there.
Yeah.
It usually involves some sort of pain, like suffering to some degree. Like all of them included some form of suffering. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. It's like even what we touched on in Dan and Robbie's podcast, which you weren't present for, but it was just like how suffering can often be the catalyst to transformation, can be the catalyst to breaking us down to the point in which spirit can come through. And I feel like a lot of that is really being with ourselves in such a way. And almost like breaking down the ego to some degree, like breaking down just enough that it lets the spirit just pour through, it lets the spirit come through. And I don't know if that's fully true in every one, but it is interesting how each one of them kind of like had a little bit of pain or a little bit of suffering like to be experienced through that. And through the other side, it's like you're celebrated for that. And so I think it comes back to that piece around responsibility as well, of like, in some ways, I think being initiated into that world is to take responsibility, that you are now responsible for the community, the tribe, the world, yourself. It's really stepping into that role. And I think that there can be a level of suffering that can be experienced if one isn't initiated into that, where it becomes, I don't want to do this, I don't want to take care of others, or it's like a separatism where we blame other people or for like being a burden, like all this stuff, instead of rather like, I can hold this, I can hold me, and I'm here to contribute to the world, rather than just take from the world.
Mm-hmm. That's very much it. That's very much becoming, when we become an adult, we see that very clearly. It's about reciprocity. It has to be. I mean, yeah. Yeah, the suffering piece is interesting, hey?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Like what are we willing to do? To what length are we willing to go? And what's wild is that it's different for everyone. And like, what would you call that?
Which?
Like how the level of suffering to actually go through that one experiences through the initiation process is different for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I think, to be honest, man, if we're to take it to like the Western culture, like if we're to take this out of like the lens of like, oh, this is what happens in indigenous cultures, if we're to look in the Western culture, I very much think that divorce, I think that disease, I think that death, I think that debt, I think that these tragedies that happen in our world are exactly that. We're just creating them because we didn't get them. It's like our life is manifesting and creating in such a way that those events are going to occur to wake us the F up to see, you know? And so I feel like because it is interesting, man, because like even in the one piece where I was like a little bit timid to say the suffering in the indigenous cultures, because I believe that they had a connection to that. Like they didn't view suffering as a bad thing. I think they viewed it as a really beautiful part of life, where it's like the opposite of grace.
It was an offering.
Like, yes, it's like, it's just, just giving it to God. Like, this is part of it. Whereas we view it as very like, oh, it's a bad thing, don't do it. Like, we don't want to go there, don't feel it. Or like, it's all bad. Like, just avoid the suffering or push away the suffering or try to get rid of the suffering because it feels icky. Whereas I think they really appreciated it, they really loved it. But I think there is that piece around like, it's just interesting how the suffering aspect is there. And I think it's just like, I think it literally just breaks you down. It breaks you down so like no matter, and I remember reading this from Ram Dass, you could take the hardest man and you put him in and you give him an illness that's gonna rock it, like that's gonna crush him, or like a cancer that's gonna bring him close to death, and he will open and he will come to know himself. He'll come to know God, source, himself is who and what he is. You'll come to know that spirit aspect of himself, the self, like the part of him that's deeper through that pain. So it's almost like the suffering is picking away, and almost like the statue of like David or the Michelangelo, it's like what is in the middle is spirit. And what's around it is the ego. It's the personhood, it's the personality. And so what ends up happening is the suffering is required to chip that away. It's like the suffering is required to chip that away so the spirit can come through. So it's not even that the spirit can come through, that the spirit can be seen within it. And I think that like it's gotta be like, it's so weird because I don't think that, like, I think there comes a point when you obviously like, well, you don't want to look at suffering just to grow, right? Because I think that can become the trap where it's like, oh, I'm just always looking to suffer because that's going to bring me closest to God, or that's going to make me feel the most alive. Or it can almost be like an addiction to suffering, where I think you can also grow through love and choice and awareness and joy. But I think there is that piece that just radically like breaks someone down so much so that they begin to see that, hey, maybe this isn't how I thought it was.
Yeah, two things. The first thing is, I believe that in adulthood, it's true, we don't see those things as suffering. It isn't. It's not suffering. This is just it. This is doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Just, that's it.
Yeah.
It's all an offering to God. We understand that. And conscious, like, again, God's not an object, right? But it's just an offering to life. Like, another thing that you touched on is, and I'm glad you touched on it because that's what I wanted to bring it up, but you brought it up beautifully as far as the adolescence. Like, it very much is, like, there are so many different manifestations of suffering out there today that we experience worldly on a day-to-day basis that are exactly that. They're the reason that they're manifested is because of the overdeveloped ego, an underdeveloped understanding of spirit.
And I loved what you shared on like the initiated doesn't see suffering as suffering.
Yeah,
because it's not. Like it's a beautiful gift that causes us to.
It's an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. Yes. And just love deeper. It's almost like every time I've suffered and every suffering I've experienced, man, it's just like, it's almost like digging and carving this beautiful hole in my heart. And now that the hole's a little bit deeper, every time it suffers, the hole gets a little bit deeper. What fills that hole? Love.
Wow. You get to choose now.
Yes. And I believe that, like, and I believe that
Hopefully
in
it's love.
in an initiated man, I believe that it
Yes.
is love. It's love, it's light, it's capacity, it's empathy, it's compassion, it's life. Like life fills that hole when you're there. When you're in an adolescence, I think that if you're caught in suffering, then you're going down you're going down blame, you're going down shame, you're going down like you're going down despair and hopelessness and apathy and like all this like the darker emotions when you're going down that way. Whereas like an initiated person, I believe that they view that suffering as like the suffering is what carves. It's what creates life. It's just life. That's all that it is. It's like Ram Dass said, like, or Guru, like Maharaji says that suffering is just the flip side of grace. It's like they're on the same coin, just the other side. It's like you can't tell them the difference because it brings you closer to God every single time. Suffering is a thing that just roots away everything, so you get closer to God in that way. So when does so we talked about the child and how it's kind of like the curiosity and the wonder, the innocence, the purity,
Unconditional love.
yeah, unconditional love. Okay, and then we moved into the youth where it's kind of like curiosity, confidence, bravery. What else was courage? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's that transition that happens into the adult. And what is so far we've talked I don't know if we've mentioned many of the characteristics of the adult yet.
No.
Aside from like responsibility, we kind of touched on that. There's a responsibility aspect there.
Life givers.
Yeah, life givers. Yeah.
I know the gifts from the north to the adult, so the one who stands in the north, are patience and purity.
What does that mean?
I think the patience. I think the patience piece is very much I think it's very much tied to or with compassion, where we can see very clearly all the people caught or stuck in all the worldly things, right? We can see even the initiated child who is now a youth still getting caught, learning, resisting spirit, right? Resisting those teachings. And we can still like hold them. Like we can still be with them without reacting, right? And respond with empathy, with compassion, with love. I think that, and to, all the adolescents walking around today, it's like, it's not easy. And it's taken me a commitment, to spirit, to a commitment, and also humility to get over myself enough so that I can actually be patient and come back to my purity. Because walking around in this world today, like you were speaking about, and all the manifestations of the uninitiated, all the suffering that we see today, all the hardships going on all over the world every single day, to still be able to wake up, put my pants on, and go outside and do the best that I can do, or just go about my day with as much trust and faith and grace that everything's going to be okay, that all I need to really focus on is looking after myself and making sure my cup is full of love, my heart is full of love, because in so doing, I'm going to just exude that myself. And so everywhere that I go, every person I talk to, everything that I do is love based. And I think it's like that unshakable or unwavering trust and faith that if I continue to show up each and every single day as best as I can in that way, therein lies the virtue of patience. something like that.
And what about purity?
What about purity? Well, in my own experience, the older I get, it's like the more hilarious life becomes. Like it's like I'm coming back to truly embody the child again, you know, that pure one where I'm just like, I realize that it's okay to trip and fall on my face, get up, dust myself off, take another step and keep going, like Ram Dass says. It's like I don't necessarily my relationship, I'm more aligned with spirit than I am with the ego. My ego, my relationship with ego has now been righted. And so because I fully understand that I am a spirit being, spirit can only be pure. Which is interesting because what comes to me is that there are spirits that are dark and spirits that are light. But I think a dark spirit is purely dark and a light spirit is purely light.
And too, like the capital S spirit, right? Because like I think within like the capital S spirit, I think is the one that you're referring to, which is self, which is consciousness, God, the source of it, like love. Like there's so many different words I think that all get wrapped into that one word. Whereas I think that's where you were speaking to, whereas like in spirits, there's actually lots of different spirits. There's good spirits, there's bad spirits, there's a whack ton of spirits, and there's probably some floating in the middle and doing the do, right? Like I think you were referring to that as in like this spirit is that like when we know that place of like spirit, like capital S spirit, self, consciousness, God, source, that place is purity.
Yes.
And if we see that place is purity, then it can't help but life becomes that, almost like the reflection of that.
Exactly.
You know who you are, and who you are radiates into the world.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, that's my kind of take on it. I'm still learning.
Nice. Yeah, as we all are. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else that you're curious about or that you want to say about like the North?
I just loved how you touched on the patience, and like patience was like in a different way, right? Like it's like we often view patience, or if we don't really, I guess like if we never, like what is patience, you know? It's like we often think that, oh, patience is just like standing in line and there's a busy line, you know? But like it's really like I love where you took it, where it's more so like really understanding the way of things and being okay with the way of things. Like there's a patience to the way of things, and there's an understanding of the way of things, meaning that like life is always unfolding exactly how it's supposed to be. Exactly when it is, and all of life is kind of like unfolded that way. And it just seemed that like from that quality of really embracing that fullness of life, there's no judgment on life anymore in some ways of like, yes, there's still the ego and there's still judgment that comes in, but there's this understanding, this deeper understanding that life is exactly the way that it's supposed to be and the way that it is. And that creates this quality of patience where it's like, oh, you're in the grocery store and there is that line, and instead of it's like, oh, this is actually exactly how it's supposed to be. You're driving and there's traffic. It's like, oh, this is actually how it's supposed to be. So it's almost like that patience comes back to just an understanding, like, which I believe is an adult, is like a deeper understanding of the world. Like the adult at that point, and I could be wrong, but this is just like my understanding of like what it is to be an adult is almost like an individuated state to some degree, where they see themselves as the whole, where they see themselves and they understand life, that life is all around them, and that they're a miraculous and beautiful part of that very experience, kind of like what you talked about to spirit and self in that way of like how when you see yourself that way, life begins to become that way. And I think it's like when a man or an adult like is in that, it's like they understand that life is exactly what life needs to be in every moment. So there's a lot more patience there. There's a lot more patience with that of like, oh, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly unfolding exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be anywhere other than where I am. And I feel like in the understanding of that exudes the quality of patience, because you're no longer like rushing. You're like, okay, this is where I am. And when we are in that way, the purity, I feel like just follows as well. Like there's just that
It's
like
a byproduct. It's
Yeah.
a natural byproduct of.
yeah. It's almost like how I saw that, or like how I heard that was. It's like it's the gift of the North. But like what the gift really is presence. What the gift really is like awareness that leads to those two. And I don't know if that's like the exact teaching or like what but that's like what got brought up for me is like the gift. Like there was a gift there's a gift that was given by the North that produced patience and purity. And what was that gift?
I would agree with you. It is awareness because I'm just thinking about the REAR program, and the third stage is aware, right?
Yeah.
Asleep. So asleep, as a child, we're asleep.
Yeah.
We're just innocent and pure.
Yeah.
And then we start to wake up in our youth. Then we become aware as an adult. And then we become alive in elderhood. I guess it would be a good idea to touch on the other gifts. So the gifts to the adult from the South,
Okay.
the place of the child, because there's spirits in each of, like they're like houses in like Harry Potter.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's like Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Ravenclaw, yeah. So it's like, it's the same, it's
the same concept almost. It's like
it is somewhat of the same concept.
so you're up here. So where's the adult rooted? The adult
In the
is rooted
north.
in the North. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then it sounds like in the East, I was gonna have to do never eat soggy wieners to get there. In the East, it has gifts for the adult. In the South, it has gifts for the adult. In the West, it has gifts for the adult, which kind of like is a cool concept as well, just to speak on briefly, because it's like you're in the North, but it's still connected. Like you're still
All
connected. It's all interconnected all the time. It's like those things are playing in and on each other. So what are those? Yeah, what are those
Well,
gifts?
so the gifts from the South, so the place of the child, in the grandmas and grandpas that look after that house, are discipline and direction. Those are the gifts from the South to the one who stands in the North, which is the place of the adult.
Whoa! So the child is giving discipline and direction. That's the
The
gift
energy
from
of
the child.
the energy
Okay.
of that stage of life.
Yeah.
The spirits, the grandmas and grandpas,
Yeah.
are gifting the adult. Like the adult receives those gifts
Yeah.
from the South when it's actually embodying its adulthood.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
again, I think we see it today in the uninitiated world as the lack of discipline, the lack of direction. We're all just buzzing around, banging our heads off the wall where we don't know what the fuck to do or where we're going. Like, there's no discipline, there's no direction. We're addicted to everything, be it social media, be it drugs and substance, be it alcohol, be it clothes, vehicles, money, sex, food. It's all the same thing. And it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that that's the world we're living in. There's very little discipline, and there's very little direction. I mean, look at the poverty. Look at homelessness. Look at all of it.
Yeah, the way that we treat each other.
If we had clear direction in our life, if we were actually standing in our power and accepting responsibility, a lot of those things, we would have clarity, right? Which means we would have direction. We would receive that gift.
Why from the child? Do you know why from the child?
No, but I'll just think about it right now and see.
Yeah, just super curious.
Because, give me a second.
Yeah, I was just curious because it
Because
it just seems odd, like from a child.
It doesn't actually, though. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I think I just,
I just masterpieced it in my mind.
but
I just masterminded it.
so the child is the one who very much takes direction from the adults, from the elders, from the all the initiated people in the village who take care of it, who nurture it,
Whoa.
they receive direction.
Yeah.
So they learn that. They
Wow,
learn that from
okay.
0 to
Yeah,
8.
that's good.
Same with the discipline.
Yeah.
They learn they're taught all of that. So now it's a reciprocity again. It's coming back through the medicine wheel, given to the adult.
Yeah. That's good. That was money. Because it makes sense. Because like in that time of a
so.
child's life, like 0 to 8, that's a lot of what it is. It's like you're setting them up. You're giving.
It's what you described with Lincoln.
Yes. And like in youth, it's different. So it's like it's like in that time of life, it's like if I give Lincoln the same discipline direction when he's like, I think you can imagine the next 4 years, it's probably not going to work the same and be the same as what he was like in this stage of life. Like he's always looking for that. He's always looking for what can I do? How can I do it? How can I be in the world? Mm-hmm. You know, how do I be in the world, Dad? You're going to have to teach me.
Who am I?
Yes, who am I? And that's what's given. So that's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. What's the gifts of the
West?
Yeah.
So the youth, which is the place of the West, and the grandmas and grandpas and the energies there, the spirits there, the gifts that are given from the West to the adult who stands in the North are rest and reflection. Your turn to figure that one out.
Rest and reflection, eh?
Yeah, let's hear your reflection on that.
Let's hear my reflection on that, of why the youth would give that gift
to the adult.
Rest and reflection.
And how the adult can receive it.
Yeah.
Or why is the adult able to receive it?
Why from the youth? I'm trying to figure out like why that's the gift in the first place. You know, almost like doing the backwards of like in a youth, like what's really given. The only thing that I can think of, like when it comes to rest, is I feel like in youth, or at least in my experience of youth, I think there was, it was youth, it was rest in which?
Reflection.
Rest and reflection.
Those are the gifts given by the youth and the energies and spirits of the youth of the West to the adult who stands in the North.
So I'm not sure about reflection yet, but this is kind of like my take on rest. And where rest really came into it was, it almost came from like taking a break from that direction and that discipline, where it's like I'm coming into my own being more. I'm coming into my own. And so I'm resting from the opinions of my parents. I'm resting from the opinions of my mom, my dad, I'm probably leaning more on my friends at this point, like in that case, but really beginning to move out of that space and really into my own in that way. And I feel like for me, there comes a level of rest with that, of like, I'm beginning to also think and reflect on who am I? What are my beliefs in the world? And there's almost like this independence that's coming into being, where it's, okay, I'm beginning to develop my individuality here. I'm beginning to really experience myself as this being. And I think that the integrated aspects of that are rest and reflection, because you begin to, because I think that can be taken, in my experience, I didn't get that. Like I didn't get the actual experience into youth, where like my youth was very turbulent. I didn't have very much rest. I didn't have very much reflection. I was just caught in more like suffering and turbulence and chaos. Whereas I feel if I was guided in a particular way, through maybe those stages, like in an easier way, and had parents supporting that way of being as well, I feel like it would have eased into my own individuality. I would have eased into my own being, and that would have created a lot of rest for me in some ways. And also a lot of reflection too, of like, who am I? Who do I want to be in the world? I never really thought about those things at that time, just because like for me, I was more focused on survival, man. I was more focused on just like getting through and getting by and trying to like live and trying to avoid pain and shame and suffering, which I felt pretty much every day. So I didn't feel like I got those pieces, but I feel like that's the reflection piece is like a very important time of like, who am I going to be in the world? You know, you're beginning to kind of percolate or see that and begin to sit with that of like, okay, where am I headed and what's going on? And then the last piece, rest, man. I slept a lot, dude. All I wanted to do was sleep, you know? All I wanted to do was sleep when I was like youth, between the ages of 12 and maybe 17. It was just like I wouldn't want to go to school. I just want to sleep more. So let me get some rest, you know? So there's really a craving for that rest. And whether that's because my body's going through these massive changes and everything's happening, which maybe looking back, it's like, maybe that like in a, and I'd love to hear or see if anybody knows or if he knows, like in indigenous culture, in like a culture that experienced those rites or the medicine wheel in that way, were the youth allowed to rest more? Were they allowed to like rest or sleep, or did they have to? Or like, what was that like? Well, yeah, that goes on a trail of things, because like my also experience was also subjective of like how much rest did I need based on what I was experiencing. So I think there's a little bit of subjectivity there. But that would be my reflection on rest and reflection in that capacity, and like the gifts and why they would be gifts to the adult.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the...
So what are the gifts, before we go there, what are the gifts from like the other direction? So like in
that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So like the gift, we already...
Shut up, Ethan.
We already talked, just be patient, dude.
Nice.
We're going to talk.
That's good. Yeah.
We've already talked about the patience and the purity, which is the gifts of from the north to the one who stands in the north.
Yeah.
And the gifts from the east, which are the spirits and the energies, the grandmas and grandpas, the ancestors who are in the house of the east, who look after that stage of life, are energy and emotion.
Energy and emotion.
Yeah, I think for me, the emotion piece is like just the ability to realize that the way that we receive direction in our life and communicate with the spirit world and receive guidance is through the emotional body. And we are able to experience emotion responsibly.
Okay.
Right? Like we are able to express healthy anger. We're able to be kind, be compassionate, right? Without, in a way of response rather than reactivity.
Okay, and that's kind of the gift of the elder, because the elder is the east as well. Like that's the direction of the east. Okay.
To the adult.
Yeah.
That's the gift, which also, like, again, how spirit communicates. Like if we're actually tuned into our emotional body, and this is something that I've just really come to understand for myself and believe to be true for myself, is that is exactly how spirit communicates with us. Like if I'm doing something repetitively, living out some pattern or behavior, and I'm actually aware and present with the feeling that is arising coming from my emotional body, it's like, if it's shame, if I'm constantly experiencing shame from whatever thing it might be, if I'm tuned in, it's like, I'm going to stop that. Because I'm not saying that shame isn't a good thing to feel, but I'm going to take that, I'm going to use that method of communication where I'm like, oh, wow, what if I just put this down and walk away?
Yeah, almost.
Well, now I'm not going to feel this anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, right? That is how very much in this very kind of mystical way, if you will, that we can communicate with spirit. And in some way, I believe too that the elder, because of its lived life rich in culture and ceremony, has all this experience. The elders teach us wisdom, the wisdom within the emotional body, something like that. And the energy piece,
I think, yeah, just to see like what I saw for the energy piece, because I feel like I've met some people that get older and they become more youthful. And I think
I'm experiencing that.
Yeah, that's that reclamation of coming, I think, closer to death, in which you begin to experience life. You begin to have like an appreciation and a fullness for life once again. And there's almost, and I don't think that has to happen all the time, but I think there's like almost like a rejuvenation and a connection with life that just creates this profound amount of energy. And I feel like like from just viewing like in eldership, I feel like that's where you're living for the most part. You're living in that profound connection with life, where you're reconnecting with that vitality of like it makes me think of like there's so many people who are 70 that look like they're 90. And then there's people who are 70 that look like they're 50 or 60 and still capable. Like I remember I was up with Jamin, we're actually hiking on the Peace River, this mountain, man. This 7-year-old dude hikes it, like I think it was 5 times a week he hikes that mountain. Yeah. It was just like far out, and he's in his 70s. Yeah. And so I feel like there's this profound almost like energy that one has connecting with life again, like this vitality or this beauty that gets created where it's, where it produces that.
And I think that energy also comes from in adulthood, like why it's a gift from the East is that because we're like just remembering to fill ourselves up with love and do the things that keep us full of love, and allowing that what's spilling over, all the love that's spilling out of our hearts, to just be so kind and generous with it, and to just give it away in whatever manifestation that looks like, that gives us energy. Right? It's like we're allowing that energy to move because that's all it wants to do. It doesn't want to be hung on to. I'm just reflecting back on my own life, like right now, current life and where I'm at. I will humbly say that I have been initiated as an adult, and I'm still got so much to learn. Like, I really don't know anything at all. And I can very much tell when I get caught in my mind that those gifts aren't present in my reality. And when I am living from my heart space, all of those gifts, I've got energy, I'm able to emote in a very beautiful way. I have clear direction, I'm disciplined on what it's going to take to, do whatever I need to do. I'm making sure I'm getting good rest, and just all of it, it's what?
just making sure that we're getting good rest. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm tired right now. Yeah, good rest is needed tonight. That's just where that thought came from.
But yeah, I can very much, when I'm pushing kind of life away and not allowing it to move through me, as not allowing creation to flow through me, as I believe an adult does, as a giver of life. Like that's how we give life. It's just whatever that looks like. Like we're all artists.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what are you creating, man?
Yeah.
It could be anything, right? It's a new meal. It's sharing, giving somebody a ride, like giving somebody a ride on the street, or like helping them when their cars broke down, or
giving them a tent.
Giving life.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't need to be, like, oh, I'm a musician, or like I'm, but that too is that.
Yes.
It's all of that.
Yeah, realizing that like every moment is an opportunity to give life. Like that's really what it's coming to see, is like every moment is that opportunity, is how am I moving through this moment?
Yeah.
And how am I speaking in this moment? How am I being in this moment? And that moment shows up in billions of different ways, of like whether it's the grocery store with the teller, whether it's to a plant, whether it's to the work that one does. It shows up in all different capacities. But it's just it's like a different way of being and a different way of seeing. And I love too, because it sounds like it's cool, because it's like the framework of like the medicine wheel is almost like just a way to navigate life. It's like a way to navigate life in a really beautiful way. And what happens when the wheel is working in the way that it's meant to be?
Well, it's spinning true. It's in constant motion.
Yes. And when it's not, then it wobbles, then it gets wobbly, then it starts to go off track and maybe goes down a cliff and goes into suffering and goes down into pain, or
it's a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, which I like just thought of, because it was like when one of those pieces aren't connected, then we lose those gifts. We lose the gifts of discipline and direction. We lose the gifts of purity and patience. We lose the gifts of rest and reflection.
And there's actually a reason that one's in front of the other.
Nice.
So how you just said purity and patience?
Yeah.
It's patience and purity.
Oh, patience and purity.
And so there's a reason.
Yeah, what's the reason?
That might have to be another episode.
Come on, no.
I don't really know.
Man,
Like, it's something
think about it, bro. Think about it, man. No, yeah, I get it. Yeah. So I think a good question to kind of wrap it up, which this has been a funny podcast, by the way, because I've been here and there and all over the map. It's just wild, dude. Of creating a podcast, it's just it's a wild experience because it's much of what I'm going through as well at the moment. It's very much not that what I'm going, but it's how do I describe that? I've been everywhere in this podcast. I felt shame, then I felt judgment, then I felt connection, then I felt out of it, then I'm in it, then I'm in it, then I'm in the wheel, and it's just I don't know. It's just really, it's a really weird one. I'll just leave it at that.
It sounds to me.
Yeah.
It sounds to me. So hold that thought.
Yeah.
And what you're gonna say next. It sounds to me like you're very much in the north, at rest in the north, because you're receiving. You're aware of all these emotions that you're experiencing. You're not in a state of reactivity, right? You're just allowing them to be, and you're just feeling them, right?
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of discipline that comes with that, right? There's direction. Here you are shooting a podcast. It's something that you love to do, right? You've been patient throughout your entire life and with this process, and you just humbly reflected your experience right now.
Yeah.
Which
allows me to rest in this moment, instead of trying to be because there was a little bit of being, this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't be in this way. I should be
Should we do a different podcast?
Should we do a different podcast? Everything that was coming up, and I wasn't we're just resting in that, and there's a rest that comes when those are dialed in. It's just
so in live time, you are receiving all the gifts
of the medicine wheel
as an adult.
Yeah. Which is beautiful. So to wrap it up, my question was so how does somebody begin to work with the medicine wheel, for themselves? Or how does somebody enter that in that capacity of really, and I don't think that this is something that they have to be necessarily conscious of, because I think that life also unfolds in this process. But when, maybe if there's somebody who's listening to this, how can they begin to work with the medicine wheel?
I think
maybe it is. Go for it.
I think we very much need to bring it into our consciousness, because in so doing, we open up the door. We're inviting something into our life. Because I've said it multiple times before on this podcast, the guru, we don't seek out the guru finds us. I didn't look for Naite. I didn't, she just came into my life. Right? I wasn't seeking out the Native American way of life, walking the red road. It just came into my life. I was, however, curious. And so I opened myself up and invited this into my life. I think that's how.
Yeah.
It's and it could be whatever. It doesn't need to, go ahead.
Yeah, the curiosity of a child.
Exactly.
Yeah, the curiosity of a child. Just beginning to open up to the world, to getting curious, to open yourself up to, okay, who is this person? What do they have to teach me? What's that? And really taking the moment, to be with your life in that way, to be with the people that that come up that you meet, to be with just life, to be, I don't know how to describe that or where I'm going with that. But the way that I got introduced to even a sweat lodge, man, it came from Shelly. It came from I was just working at the Eastlink Center, man. I was just working at the Eastlink Center, running the squash courts and the gymnasium and that sort of stuff. And she was one of the people that came in, and we just connected, and that's how that happened. And that introduced me into kind of the first experience of being in a sweat lodge and experiencing that, seeing meeting the chief, just doing that whole do. But that came from just the curiosity and openness. Almost that childlike quality. It's I ensued that first. I was okay, what else is there? Can I open myself up to life in a particular way? And there's a part of me that wants to ask you to pray and make a prayer. Yeah, for everybody who's listening. Yeah, or just like a prayer of like just like to open, like Creator God, like really open ourselves up to just what life is trying to teach us in this moment. Because it very much sounds like the way that we enter the medicine wheel is by bringing conscious attention or conscious awareness to it, but then also having a curiosity and openness to life itself. Is that was that kind of accurate?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, it was a beautiful episode. I mean, I learned so much. And a prayer.
Dude. Yeah, close it out with the prayer.
I kind of want to go get my drum.
Then go get your drum.
And I can sing a song.
Yeah, go sing a song. We'll cut this. Cut. Boom.
Okay, here. Well, this song is the first song that I ever heard as I began to walk the red road and to begin receiving the teachings of the Indigenous Medicine Wheel. So yeah, here we are. You know the song. Sing along.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, wake up, child, wake up, child. Listen, listen. Listen, listen. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, stand in your power, woman, stand in your power, man. Listen, listen. Listen, listen. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, give birth, give life, mother, give birth, give life, father. Listen, listen. Listen, listen. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, share wisdom, elder, share wisdom, elder. Listen, listen. Listen, listen. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. OCM, Donovan, I pray that you hear these prayers, our prayers. That's what I pray for all beings here on earth. To continue to pray hard and through that to receive the gifts of all the directions on the medicine wheel, the gifts of spirit, the gift of aliveness. And I pray that all two-leggeds receive the gift of courage. The courage to follow your heart, to do what needs to be done. And that all beings be treated with love, loyalty, and respect. Right?
Creator, thank you for this wonderful life that we get to live. Thank you for the gift of the medicine wheel. Thank you for the gift of the teachings. And thank you for the gift of the wisdom that continues to work through us in all its ways. Thank you for life itself and the very gift that it is to breathe, to be here, to experience, to feel, to touch, to taste, to hear. May you help all of us open our hearts, bring clarity to our eyes, bring presence to our hearing and listening, so we can see what needs to be seen, hear what needs to be heard, and be what needs to be. And may we all enjoy each other's company. All beings, everywhere, through all space and time. Hechka. Wonderful.
That's a wrap. All right. Listeners, homies.
Homies!
Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, feel free to drop some of your teachings about whatever medicine wheel it is you're working through, where you're at. And share your wisdom, share your heart, and see you soon. Love you lots. Peace.
Peace out.